Welcome to the Did You See That podcast. This is a podcast for, casual sports fans that like to talk Cleveland sports. I'm Colton. This is Ryan. Let's just jump into it.
I know, on TV it was crazy.
All of Cleveland. We went to a couple bars beforehand, just stop in, grab a drink on the way down to the stadium, and one of them I think was a Bengals backers bar that I went into. I was like, in Cleveland, what are we doing here? It was crazy. There was just like a lot of Bengals fans.
Well, it's not even like, okay, I get why people in Cleveland maybe root for the Steelers. They were good for a long time, blah, blah, blah. The Bengals have never been good. Why are people in Cleveland rooting for the Bengals?
I don't know. They must have just been moved north from Columbus. There's a lot of Columbus people who like the Bengals. It's gross. It's
lot.
Gross.
That's true.
No, it was a cool game though. It was fun, and they put on a fun show in prime time to be there as like the spectacle of it. Lots of cool light stuff and Halloween, so all the fun things. Cool. It's been a day. You want to jump right into it and start?
Let's
knocking stuff out. NFL trade deadline.
I've been chomping.
Like you said today, you text me and they're making a play for the NBA trade deadline. It's been a day, and I've got them all listed out here. But you want to go for it? What are some of your favorites? What's the breakdown of the day?
My favorite was the tweet that talked about how the Dolphins have turned the Trey Lance trade into Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and now Bradley Chubb. That's incredible. That's such a great trade, and I think sometimes you get all these picks and it feels good to have them, but you never really get anybody, or you never think about it when you look back. But those are some three major pieces, and I heard somebody else talk about this today, and I thought the same exact thing was, you don't make these trades unless you know Tua is the guy, because you want to take a couple more swings at quarterback if you're hold on to these first round picks. So if you feel good about Tua, which they obviously do, then they're surrounding him with talent. And then the second best thing to do is tackle the quarterback. And they went out and did that today.
They have to feel good about Tua making all the plays that they just made. And if not, they become an immediate, QB headhunting destination of the sorts they tried to be last year. I mean, they had the Tom Brady, the entire, tampering thing locked up. Like, is there a chance he goes there next year? Question mark. Wild, crazy stuff. And hey, you heard it here first, folks. They're going to lose their first round pick and still get Brady, but it's just a year later than before. No, I think that's amazing. And it's fun to draw the lines, always follow the picks. It's always in the moment. You're like, oh, they gave up so much. Did they? What did it turn into? And in this case, it looks bad for the Niners.
This one hurt.
Yeah, that does not look great after just, a couple of the pieces falling. And then they got established guys with those picks. They didn't have to wait on any of them. They turned them into superstars. So some other picks, or some other trades that happened today. Bradley Chubb obviously going to Miami. That was a piece of it. But Chase Edmonds going back. So Miami ships Chase Edmonds out with a fourth round pick in his pocket. And they say go, and a first rounder too. Head on.
Yeah, and they saved the money because they signed him to a deal. They paid him to be a starting running back, and now they don't have to mess with him.
And he gets to go be the Mike Boone role in Denver, which is weird. Scat back?
Yeah, I guess that's what they've said already. But long-term solution, I mean, they can't cut him. They have to keep him next year. So I guess it's him and Javonte doing the same thing him and Melvin did this year.
That feels like a dumpster fire there. I know they won that game most recently, but the stats and the entire game itself did not look great. They just ended up winning. I think that's why they made this trade also.
And the Seahawks continue to just take shots at Russ. I mean, they have no mercy.
Every single
for just
one
shooting.
Of them. Is there anybody that was like former teammate that's coming out and being like, he is just a good guy? Like nobody.
No one.
Not a single person. And there's too many podcasts by the players and stuff now, but it's man, they are like kicking dirt on him while he's down. They do not like him. And he knows.
I mean, Lockett went out of his way to say something nasty. I mean, that's just it. I
kind of love it. It's the best.
Yeah.
This is what sports are fun.
And he's bad.
Yeah, and he's bad. Other trades. Hawkinson moves off of Detroit. He heads to Minnesota. Some picks exchanged in that, but essentially a second and third for Hawkinson and a couple fourths, I think.
What'd you think?
Good for Minnesota. I mean, they're kind of pushing in some chips. That's fun. Good for Detroit. Like, what a haul for a tight end on a team that can't do anything with him anyway. And he was about the rest of this season away from irrelevant tight end stats, and like he was kind of drifting off into Netherland there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know why they'd trade him to an in-division rival. They obviously got a good price, I feel like. They got a good price.
Great price.
But at the same time, I think Hawkinson's better than what he showed. He's put up good stats on bad teams, and now he's going to get a chance in a good offense, and they could be scary. I mean, KJ Osborne is nasty in the slot. Jay Jetta is incredible. If Thielen stays healthy, he's a really great number 2. And Kirk Cousins, if nothing, is accurate.
Yeah.
And then you got Cook in the backfield and Madison. Yeah. So, and they're what, 5-1 or 6-1?
6-1.
They definitely going to hurt.
My Super Bowl pick on our last episode. Yep. That was those are my guys. I mean, I like that they're pushing in the chips. It's that's what, Kwesi? He was in the front office with the Browns, goes up there and starts making moves right away. I love it. Like, let's start mixing things up. What are you going to do? Sit there and just be okay forever?
And they made a trade. They made a trade on draft day together too. So I mean, they've obviously worked a trade already, even though that's kind of not the norm. It's happened twice now. So
yeah, and I think Detroit's obviously looking long term with a deal like this. It's not paying off that the way they would have hoped. I don't know. I guess they can keep selling. They have some pieces they want to build around, but until they have a quarterback and a better foundation, Detroit might as well sell when it's a price like this.
My thought is that they're about to get Jameson Williams back from injury. They're going to see what he's like, and I think you go 3 wide receivers and less tight end. I think that's kind of where the offense goes for them naturally, and you don't want to pay your tight end a ton of money. So, hey, win-win.
Yeah, I think so too. Other trades, let's see here. What do we got? So it wasn't Hawkinson. We had Claypool. He got moved out for a second. He's on his way to Chicago. Weird. Chicago making deals earlier in the week, selling off defense, and then buying back offense on a team that is at best okay. Why? They gained a year is what I saw. They gained 1 year of control on a guy, but
if they do this trade in the summer, to me it makes more sense because they're saying, hey, we're going to give them some weapons and let them go. At this point, I don't get it. To the Steelers, I don't know how they got a second-round pick for Claypool. I just don't.
It's like legacy. One of those picks. They have a little magic pixie dust on wide receivers, and they're like, yeah, he's going to be good. That's just part of
He could be Mike Evans, though. I mean, he could be Mike Evans and go deep and have a big body and make his rookie season. What do you have? 10 touchdowns? I think he had 10 touchdowns.
He could be Calvin Benjamin.
He could be. Just switch him to tight end.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's the comp for you of where he could go. I hope it's awesome. I want him to do well.
If you can now, as the Steelers, you get a second-round pick, and now Pickens gets 90% of the snaps instead of the 60% he's been getting, Pickens, I think, kind of blows up here the last 6 games.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, moving him out of the way might be, addition by subtraction for sure for them. And it had to be somebody. So it was going to be, him or what? They're not going to do anything with Deontay. He's better.
No.
Right? So weird move there, but we'll see how that pays off. Fun, weird one. Ryan's been waiting on this for like literally a year straight. So Ridley gets moved out of Atlanta. He's on his way to Duval for a conditional 5th and then possibly a 2nd, but there's conditions tied all over this thing. So Ridley going to Duval. Playing this year, I guess? No? Next year?
No, 2023. That's the first time he can play.
Cool. Okay, so future deal. What do you think?
I wish he would have went to Kansas City instead of Tony for that compensation. Yeah. Or I wish he would have went to, who's the other team I sent you?
Oh, I don't know.
Else. Man, there was somebody else that I was like, man, he'd fit in great there. But anyways, I think it'll end up being a second-round pick because All they have to do, if they sign him to a long-term deal, they have to give him a second-round pick. So they didn't trade him just to keep him for 1 year. The dude's uber talented. He had an amazing breakout season. He was struggling the year he got suspended. There were some mental health games that he missed. So he had a lot of things in his personal life going on, not related to the gambling. That was something totally different. And I don't even know if you want to mark it as gambling.
Gambling.
It's the same thing the NFL sponsors and promotes all the time, nonstop.
Even to a smaller tier, honestly. Like, he is low level at best. Made a small bet.
Yeah, we did the math when it first happened, and it was like less than 1% of his salary was gambled on a parlay. It's stupid.
It was dumb.
But the guy's a stud, and if Lawrence continues to move forward, this offense gets better. Now you put him as the 1. Kirk is a 2. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, and Etienne has been playing great.
Zay Jones has been playing well.
Believe me, I've got Calvin stashed away on some of my fantasy teams, and I will continue to hold all his stock because I think he's him, as the kids say.
I think that one's a fun one because it's, dressed in this air of like, we're going somewhere. That's what that trade says to me. I think it's a fun one for all of the guys down in Jacksonville that want their team to be good. I think it's another feather in the cap of the quarterback room there too, and them saying, hey, Trevor Lawrence, we believe you might be able to do this. Here's a weapon to go with the other weapons that we're just going to continue to invest in. The Cons have never been afraid of spending money, so this is, not surprising for them to go all in, and for a guy that they're probably going to sign to a contract after this as well.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that really, he played outside, he played in the slot, he played both great, so you can move him around just about anywhere. The other team I was excited to see him on was New England. I thought they've paid so much money to the wide receivers, this would be a cheap option to get him into the building and kind of help out Mac Jones or Zappy, whoever is going to be there. But I thought that would be a cheap way for the Patriots to not hurt their salary cap and add some talent. But Jacksonville, not my first pick, but I'd like to see him there. Let's see how it works out.
Before we do the rest of the trades that happened today, quick shout out to the Browns for acquiring Amari Cooper for a 5th-round pick and then a Swapski, because that just continues from that point forward to be the steal of this entire calendar year. It's pretty wild, especially after today.
Did you get to watch any of the breakdowns of the people not wanting Brandon Cook because of the salary? Did you see that today?
No, I did see his salary was too high, and that was part of the...
Yeah, so a lot of the people were saying, oh, man, he's going to be making $18 million next year. The Texans would have to eat a lot of the cap. I don't get that. $18 million is a deal. We're paying Amari $20. There's other wide receivers making much, much more and not producing anything. And I feel like he's just as productive as Amari Cooper has been and more reliable, honestly. So I don't see why the $18 million was such a stumbling block for people, especially since it doesn't hit till next year. You'd have time to adjust your roster. Plus, the guy has been in, 4, 5, 6 different systems at this point.
Produced
and continues to put up 1,000 yards. And he's one of those guys that plays inside, outside, runs all the routes. He's been healthy, very rarely injured, and the dude's a stud. So I don't know why people didn't make a... I think a lot of people were imagining.
That would have been so fun, and I think he was imagining based on the tweet did you see that for the day? Did you see his tweet right afterwards where he's like, you're messing with my career? What do you think that is in reference to?
Well, what I heard was that there was a deal with Dallas in place, but the Texans wouldn't eat enough of the salary to make it happen. So that's what I had read, was that he was pretty much lock, stocked, and done to Dallas. And then Dallas was very stringent on how much salary they would pay, and the Texans would not pay it, and that's why he's burnt out on the Texans.
What an interesting fit that would be in Dallas. I really was all on board for the Green Bay thing. I was thinking that fits the problem the Green Bay's having a ton.
Oh, they got more problems than that.
It would give a guy for him to just fly down the field, and Aaron can do that thing he does where he lets it fly. Because right now, if it's less than 20 yards and he has to throw it short, he's just throwing it into a defender's head repeatedly, over and over. Last couple trades here. Jeff Wilson got moved from San Francisco to Miami. They kicked back a 5th and 23. just some depth at running back there. Obviously, they're doing some shuffling. They moved out Edmonds, like we talked about. Roquan Smith, this was a day ago, but I wanted to throw it in here. It was close enough in proximity. Roquan Smith going from Chicago to Baltimore, so in division, that's going to be one that we'll have to pay attention to. Good get for them. He's a hell of a player, and that's part of the question marks surrounding the. I think they sold high on him. That's probably why they did it, but then they obviously bought right after in Chicago, so whatever they're doing there. And then at the deadline, we had Nyheim Hines get slipped in there from Indy, heading to Buffalo. Buffalo finally moves off Zach Moss. They said, we've taken as many swings at this guy as we possibly can, and we can't make it work. So they turned him into Nyheim Hines, and they put a 6th-round pick in his pocket. And I think that he can be very dangerous for Buffalo. The only weird thing there is their running back room is all the same kind of running back. So, like, all 3 of them are the same sort of player, different speeds, slightly different styles, but they're in the same, universe, each of them. So it'll be interesting to see how they get used from here on out. And then there was some, obviously, corners, safeties got moved around, things that may not even make headlines or news past this week. So anything I missed there? Any final thoughts on the deadline?
Yeah. Right after we signed off on our last pod, CMC got traded. So we got to throw that in. So CMC getting moved. I mean, that's a big piece. We were texting each other like, what else did they even have to trade for him? But really, when you give the mad scientist Shanahan another piece like this, we saw what happened last week with McCaffrey throwing it, catching it, and rushing it in for a touchdown. And that was all with Debo on the sidelines. And Debo will be back soon. And I just don't know, when you break a huddle with those two, if they both go wide, they both end up in the backfield. Debo's in the backfield and McCaffrey's out wide. There's going to be so many issues on the defense lining up. They're just going to be so scary. And Shanahan's one of those people, every time I watch the game and the wide receiver catches the ball, I'm always like, how do they get so wide open?
Yeah.
Because whenever I watch the Browns games, we never catch the ball with like 10 yards around us with no one around us. So now when you get those guys in space, and Jimmy G is doing what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Just don't run out of the back of the end zone. Yeah, hand the ball off and just go. So it's scary to see a great running back in the Shanahan rushing system, but then to have somebody that can catch and do all those other things, it's going to be incredible if they can stay healthy.
Yeah, and if they can stay healthy, that is the main piece of that, right? Mm-hmm. But it's big for any team, but those two specifically, there are health concerns that we've seen before. But if they stay healthy, they're 2 of the most dynamic guys in the entirety of the NFL. And having them in the same offense is just fun because you don't have to, they're not going to catch 70-yard bombs. They're going to catch a screen and take it 70 yards, which is fun for a whole bunch of reasons, and it gives them some versatility. So a lot of teams shaking it up at the deadline, a lot of new faces in new locker rooms heading into next week. The bye weeks are hitting hard right now, so shuffling all around, people getting moved. It's going to be fun to see what happens. I'm excited. I want these players to matter, not just in the real life. I love the fantasy aspect of a lot of this, especially some of the wide receivers, the running backs, the guys that go from, irrelevant waiver ads to possibly flex plays because of some of these moves. And we're going to get to talk about a lot of that moving forward here, so that'll be cool. You want to do a quick Browns overview? We had the game last night.
Yeah, you were there. So give us the first-hand account of what was going on, and I'll give you the home account.
Yeah, what did it look like on TV? So in person, it felt like, the energy in the stadium was all Browns all the time. Things felt good. Obviously, first drive, we got the pick. Jacoby looks like a backup in person, but like a lucky one, like one that can scramble around and kind of get passes off, at least last night. Like there were a couple times where it felt like we were inches from disaster, and then it was turned into a long play. So I think that alone was something to see in person. It was a little weird. It's just Jacoby looking bad, but the team looking generally good. We used every lineman that we dressed last night. That was a cool thing. I saw that today as a stat, and it felt like it during the game. We were running the hell out of the ball. And the stadium, no surprise, loves Chubb, but they're more vocal about it than I've ever heard when I was there. I mean, if he's not on the field, there are chances it's just Chubb, 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 Chubb. Especially if you get down near the line, they're like, they will not let Stefanski not know that what everyone in the stadium wants him to do. I mean, hell, he took it in Wildcat and ran it right in. So that was it. It was fun in person, and it felt like they had it under control most of the game. Start of the second half, they poured it on, and it was out of hand after that.
Yeah. It was good on TV. I got to tell you, the first half was brutal to watch, though. We get the turnover, and we think we're taking that interception all the way back down, but really he's down. We've got the blocked field goal on Cade York again, and you're just thinking, like, this is not our night. Amari throws that stupid interception on a trick play when we didn't need to have a trick play. And it's just like, is this going to be another one of those things? And what was different Monday night than the rest of the season was the defense came out and, like, spanked the person in front of them. Whoever they were in front of, they beat their man. Myles Garrett owned it and drove the team. We had the rookie cornerback do an excellent job on Higgins. I didn't have to yell Delpit's name out for doing anything stupid. I mean, it was just and JOK didn't play.
Yeah.
And I really thought that was going to be a problem for us. But each person seemed like they owned their assignment last night on defense, and it felt good.
Yeah, couple linebacker sacks without JOK, which is interesting. The defense felt dominant, and I don't know if it's the Bengals. I don't know if it's, primetime football or what it is. The defense felt dominant, but just to pull it back a little bit, it felt like the Bengals were doing stupid things the entire night. I mean, the people in the stadium felt it. It felt like, at one point, it was late in the second quarter, they had 8 rushing yards. And they had like 7 of those rushing yards on the first play of the game. Our defense is Swiss cheese, and it very obviously feels that way when you're watching it. And I think that it wasn't being exploited for whatever reason, whether we were baiting them into throwing more or what it was, but it felt like there was opportunity that they weren't taking. The turnovers helped.
But they've done that all year. Everyone has this predisposed notion that the Bengals have been good and they've just had bad luck. They have not been good this year. Even the big breakout game against the Saints, they should have lost that game. They very luckily had a couple late turnovers and some big plays that broke it open for them. They had a really dominant win against Atlanta last week. And everybody's like, oh, they're back on track. But the whole beginning of the season, they couldn't block anybody. They couldn't block anybody to run the ball, and they couldn't block anybody to keep them off Joe Burrow. So I don't think that's been solved yet, and I'm not worried about the Bengals. I really haven't been worried about them all year. They're not somebody that was on my radar. But looking ahead for the Brownies, so we're on a bye week, so we're going to get a couple extra days. Okay. Now, it didn't help us when we played the Falcons with extra days, but we get the Dolphins next. They're going to be coming off playing the Bears. We have to go to Miami. Do we have a chance to win that game?
I think we do have a chance to win that game. It depends on how hot our sideline is in comparison to their sideline, obviously. No, it's just a joke. I think that we do have a shot, and it depends on Tua more than anything else. I think there's 2 versions of the Tua that you're going to get. And if we can get the one that, for whatever reason, is only throwing left and right and not down the field, we can win the game. If he can connect over the middle, which terrifies me because it felt like, secondary holes for us, it could be a long, 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 long day with Waddle and Hill running all over.
I feel like that's the game. If you tell me what Kareem Hunt's stat line is, I'll tell you if we won. Because if he gets over 50, 60 yards on the ground, that means Chubb's got over 100, and we're just running it and we own the ball the whole game. We're going to win that game. I feel like we could win that one. We get Buffalo next at Buffalo. That's a loss. I don't see how we pull that one out unless it's a really sloppy, bad weather game and we can hold our own. I think we can beat Tampa Bay at home, and then we get Watson back.
Oh, okay. That was the Watson back.
And then we get Watson back against Houston. So, and there's some winnable games down the stretch for us. So I don't think we can catch the Ravens. I believe they're going to go on a 7-0 run here because they have a really soft schedule. But I believe that we can get to 9-8, and we might be able to squeak to 10-7
Yeah.
if Watson comes back on fire. Because there's a lot of games we lost with the 2-minute drill that Watson's going to win for us.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, up until we had one game that we lost badly. Other than that, we lost by single digits, and in most cases less than three. So
Yep.
we've been in every game that we played. Last night was our first dominant victory, which was fun. But we're gonna have some competitive battles here, and if we can steal some before, if we can steal any of those games, and really stealing two of the three that you just mentioned is ideal. It's going to be necessary to really make a real play. I don't
Yeah.
think that that's possible. I think we get one. I think we can get one of those three. But if we can get two of the three, and God forbid we get all three of those, and then Watson comes back, it's like, oh, this is weird. This is a fun, weird team that might have a swagger to them because at that point they'll have been overlooked for most of the season.
I will tell you, Monday night for me as a Browns fan was a do or die game. If we lost on Monday night, I was writing the rest of the season off. There was just no path to getting to where you wanted to go. But the win didn't say, oh, we're in, but at least leaves me with hope so that I can be tortured for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, it's just enough to like really bring us back through the doorway and say, hey, you could stick around just a little bit longer. Let's see what happens.
Yes. Okay. NBA. It's also that time of year. You want to chat it up on some NBA stuff?
I love the NBA. I'm so
Me
glad
too.
that it's back. It's so much fun. Um, Truth be told, I've always got it second screening like every single night. There's some game on somewhere that's worth at
Yep.
least watching because the characters of the league are so much fun. Um, what's your most surprising? What do you got here? Most surprising bad teams winning or good teams losing? What is most surprising?
Oof.
Bad teams
I
winning?
really want to. I really want to talk about the Cavs, but we'll do this
Oh,
first.
okay. We can do the Cavs. It's up to you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I love this. I'm more surprised that the bad teams are winning.
I
The
think so
Jazz are
too.
6-2. The Spurs are the fourth in the West. The Wizards have been winning, and I didn't think the Blazers would be that good. Partially because I think they rely too much on Dame, and he's been hurt, and we'll see how that shakes out. But all those teams have been excellent. And to be honest with you, when you're looking at the Jazz, um,
They,
they have done a good job. So Danny Ainge stole their coach, Will Hardy. Will Hardy coached for the Celtics.
Mhm.
And obviously Ainge had some intimate knowledge of the organization, and he stole Mike Hardy from the Celtics and got him that head coaching job. And if you've watched the Utah Jazz games, I've watched two of them now, he literally is just putting them in like the best one-on-one situations you can set up. Marketing is doing pick and rolls where he's always ending up on the smaller guy or the slower guy. He's on the wing a ton, and he is just getting open shot, open shot, open shot. And somehow Jordan Clarkson is passing the ball. He is almost like a point guard, almost like a point guard. And he's doing great. And they play defense and they run all the time. They are on the run nonstop. So I'm surprised. I think Ainge at some point is going to be like, you don't understand the assignment, and is going to trade everyone. And he's going to get something for marketing.
Oh yeah, he is, and that was actually one of the other things we had on here as a bullet points. Who's been surprising, right? And Markkinen, his stat line every night. It's like, do you know why you were sent to Utah? Because I don't think he does. And also, it's kind of he's fulfilling the destiny he was supposed to fulfill in Chicago
Mm-hmm.
that he started
Yep.
to fulfill with the Cavs. That he's now taken one more step, and it's like, oh wow, Danny, you do have a fun little toy you could probably spin off here. Somebody's gonna buy, and he's not the only piece they have. That team is fairly deep of like role players, and they're kind of
Yeah.
playing together. That's what they don't have any
Would you
stars.
would you keep marketing to help the rebuild, or is he playing so good you would trade him for more pieces?
I think you have to trade him for picks. I think at least for this year and next year, if you're going all in and you're doing the picks thing, you can't have a guy like Markkinen coming in and like floating games and helping you win.
What if he's your number 2? Is he good enough to be a number 2 on a winning team? That would be my question. If the answer is no, then you trade him. If he is, then I think you hold on to him, trade the other pieces, and build with him, not build for him.
I think the answer to me is no. I think Markkanen is, it's amazing that he's doing this well. More power to him. I'm glad he's healthy right now. It terrifies the shit out of me. I don't think I could bet a house that this guy can be built around, but it's cool while he is doing well.
I think he'd be a really good number 3 if he stays on this trajectory. If he's your number 3, that'd be great. That's being a good number 3 isn't enough for me to hold on to him if I'm getting a good offer, and there are going to be people that are going to make a good offer for this dude.
Yeah, there'll be teams that are going to need to buy, and with his size and his 3-point shooting and the defensive ability that he's kind of shown over the last year and a half, which is weird. That was not part of his repertoire really, but he's been taking that on a little bit. He's been one of the most surprising, and I think that that's a fun one. The Utah Jazz winning, that is surprising. The bad teams are winning.
I could see some picks from the Knicks going there and them getting Markkanen, and I think he'd be really great to pair up with Randall and Jalen Brunson and give them a little bit more shooting. I think that'd be a nice little fit.
Oh, I like that. That's a good one. I'll have to think on some other destinations. I like that one, though. I also had that the Magic and the Pacers, they do seem to understand the assignment. Now, they're trying their best. They really are. But they're getting those L's, and that is what they need to do. Not all of it. It's not like they're coming out the gate 0-for. I mean, the Magic were. I haven't seen the most recent schedule to see.
They got a win.
Did they get their win finally? Yeah. So they were 0-for when I wrote this, but at the time, now they have a win. They're going for it, and I appreciate that, but it's weird. It's like half the teams we thought were going to full tank did. The other half not only didn't, they are leading the pack. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, the my note on the Pacers, that was my did you see that or did you hear that? But Miles Turner saying on Woj's podcast, yeah, I think they should trade. The Lakers should trade for me.
I saw that.
I shoot. I play defense, and that's what they need, and they should give it a look. So, hey, man, shoot your shot.
Wow. It's just, that is wild. Is that tampering? Are you allowed to do that?
I think he's not in control of the front office. I mean, what are they going to say?
I have no idea, but I like it. I just, honestly, I don't think that that's going to fix that Lakers team. And
no.
If you're the Lakers and you're thinking objectively, which, I mean, the last decade and a half tells us that they don't do that. But if they did, they'd be going, how do we sell LeBron and AD to rebuild this team in 3 years?
That is not happening.
And they're not going to do that.
That's not happening.
There's no chance they do that. But if you want a team to be good, if they want to win again, that's probably what they have to do. I don't think they can do it with the current roster.
No, yeah, the only thing they can do is do the Russ and the 2 picks, but they have to make it a 3-way because there's not one team that can give them everything they get. So it'd have to be a Miles Turner, Buddy Hield, Rozier, and then send out Westbrook, the 2 ones. And even with that, it's like...
No, it's not enough.
What do you... Yeah.
And I saw De'Aaron Fox today, and they're like, what if it was De'Aaron Fox? And then they got the picks out.
That definitely doesn't help. That's just young Russ.
Great. Awesome. Now you have De'Aaron Fox. He's still not going to – you're not winning. And there's no way. The Jazz would beat you.
Yeah, this whole issue with Kyrie, maybe that blows up to the point where they just send him home and say, stop coming in because you're an awful human being, and that'll be the Lakers' chance to pounce to get Kyrie.
We don't care.
They'll be buying him pennies on the dollar. They won't have to send both picks.
Cheap.
So maybe they could get Kyrie and Hield and Miles Turner. And even then, I don't even like that team then.
I think it's, their bed was made when they made the deal for Russ, a year and a half ago. And they've been stuck since then. And
hey, you could argue it's when they made the trade for AD. Yeah. You gave up Josh Hart, who has been excellent at his role. Lonzo. I know, I'm just saying. I mean, what if they would have, originally when that trade, I had to go back and look at it. New Orleans was asking for Kuzma because he was coming off that really good year, and they wouldn't part with Kuzma. They put Ingram in instead. What if they would have kept Ingram?
Yeah. Yeah. What if they would have?
it's weird for me because this is the first time, I guess even last year, I'm watching LeBron go full go. He really is. He's playing hard, and he cannot will his team to win.
Yeah, it's not enough.
I'm so used to him being able to put it at 100, and it's enough to get the win, and he just doesn't have enough.
I think that's twofold though too. I think it's that he's getting older, and obviously like
Yeah.
his 100 is not as good as it used to be. It's still amazing though. I mean, you watch it and it's like it's enough to win a game. But the competition level is just so much higher that that one guy can't win the game anymore. You know, like it's so rare that the one guy is gonna be able to float the entire boat and get you wins night in and night out, and to the point where it's they started 0-4. It's not even they're not even getting any wins. They're struggling hard, and you know that's it's not really LeBron's fault, but
I mean,
the team is stuck.
And this is what we talked a little bit about the depth of the league. So last year's rookies, you had Mobley, Cade, Barnes, Wagner, Moody, Kuminga, Herb Jones, Dyer Williamson. This year, I mean, it's still early, but you've got Ivy, Mathurin, who's been on fire, Murray, Paolo. You're missing Chet, but you got Sharp, who's had hot and cold nights, but when he's hot, the dude's incredible. Duran and Dyson Daniels. And that's 2 years in a row where those are deep draft classes of guys that are really good. And I think we're getting to the point you could add that expansion team or two, and the league is still going to be okay. Because right now there is so much talent. You look at this Memphis roster. You look at the Pelicans roster. You look at the Cavs. You look at Golden State. I mean, you got people 1 through 8, 1 through 9 that are really good players, that are really awesome. So,
and you give them a little space to breathe. I mean, look at what Markkanen's doing on the Jazz. You know, like, was he going to be that guy on the Cavs? He wasn't going to get the opportunity to do that. And it's interesting. You add a couple expansion teams, which, I mean, it's not even like will they, it's when will they. You know, it's so open now, out in the open, that LeBron is wink nodding and talking to the commissioner about wanting to own one of them. It's what a weird thing all of that is. But they can for sure support it, and the depth is just wild. I think it's also how guys are taking care of themselves in their career. Obviously, guys are coming in fairly young, but they're coming in and staying like in a younger body, taking care of their bodies later. The game, I think, wears on them more, but we can see guys doing like what LeBron's doing and what Chris Paul are doing. I mean, just taking one starting spot on an NBA team for a decade plus, it's a hard thing to do. There's only a very, finite amount of those.
Yeah, and I was listening to another podcast, and Ryan Russillo said that he looked at all the All-Stars from last year's All-Star game, and on average, players missed 15 games last season. So there is more, load management, going into it, and people are taking care of their bodies differently, and they're reducing stress. The league's done a good job of spreading out the schedule, travel, all those things. So people are playing a lot later, and as long as you talk to Cat about your diet, and he got on Ant-Man this week about eating Popeyes,
so weird.
Which was my did you see that? First off, Cat, don't talk to Ant-Man about basketball at all. I don't want to hear about it. You're the softest dude in the world. You're the new Chris Bosh. Yeah. You totally choke in the playoffs. You have no emphasis. And then when you have one good game, you want to chat about it. Get out of here. That dude is the star of the team. You are second fiddle. Go back to being a giant three-point shooter.
He doesn't know.
No, he does not know.
He has no idea.
No, he does not know.
Speaking of listening to pods,
on
Simmons' pod this past week, they had Barkley on. I don't know if you listened to that interview.
Yeah,
Barkley had a whole comment about, like, when you walk into the building, everyone knows who the guy is. It doesn't matter who they say the guy is, right? Ant-Man and Cat have it. That is a thing. And it's like, Cat doesn't know. He's obviously not grabbing that, but it's like, dude, this isn't your team anymore. Like, it's just not. We like you, but you're not the guy.
Yeah, and he is talented. I'm not saying the dude's a scrub. He's not. He's a good player, but like he hasn't done anything in crunch time when it's really counted. He had that team for a long time and didn't really move them out. And Ant-Man's been the difference. And the dude's special. When you watch that guy play basketball, he's electric.
Yeah, it jumps off the screen in a different way than Cat does, and
Yes.
he's probably 2 years away from getting moved to like the Knicks for some picks and something else anyway. With the Rudy Gobert movement and everything else, that might also turn into a dumpster fire pretty quickly. Of why did they sell those picks to get Rudy Gobert? What is Rudy Gobert at us? But maybe that'll be for a different day. So just to go back a little bit here, surprising players. I know you mentioned Matherin coming out hot. I've been watching him pretty closely, stat lines and otherwise. One of the most impressive rookies I've seen in a minute because of the way they just allow him to run. He's taking the ball and they're letting him go with it. So I think that's a fun one.
Mhm.
And then Embiid looking out of place. That was a surprise to me. It's been, written about and tweeted about and podcasted about now to death, but I do find it odd that Daryl Morey has just kind of replicated the Rockets team from a couple years ago in Philly and is slowly tooled it back to that direction. And Embiid doesn't necessarily fit that formula, which is a weird thing. I don't know what they do to get out of that.
Why do you think he looks out of place? What is it?
I just think that he doesn't fit the ball stopping, ISO sort of deal that Harden thrives in. And I think that if they're going to succeed with Embiid as the main piece, he has to be the playmaker. And if Harden wants to do his thing, he has to have the ball to be that, to make his own play. So if those two things are true, I don't know how you really can go deep with this team. I think they could win a lot of games. They're both talented guys, but you're not going to get the best out of both of them on any one night. You can get the best of one or the best of the other, but I don't think you can get them both.
Yeah, I watched a couple of Phillies games, especially after all the talk started about him looking out of place. He looked tired. Now, I don't want to say out of shape, because he doesn't look out of shape, but he looked tired the two games that I watched, both at different stretches. So I don't know if it's just because they don't have a great rotation set yet for this season. But I don't trust Doc as a coach to begin with. I
Sure.
don't think he's great at it. And then the other thing is, I think that team, like you said, plays a little bit better, more team basketball when he does touch the ball more. When it's him and Maxi, they seem to get so much more movement out of everyone. There's a lot more space on the floor. But at the same time, when James is running the show, like you can't. I mean, his efficiency is insane this year. Like he's really putting up great
Oh
numbers.
yeah.
He's not the old Harden because he's not as quick. I mean, he's never fast, but he's not as quick as he used to be. But he is still getting angles on guys. He's getting to the hole, and his shot is much better than last year. Not as good as peak Harden. So you're right. I mean, they're both playing good. They're just not playing well together.
Yeah. Which and that might just take time, like it. I think one thing that today's game is missing that the more boring NBA had when I was growing up is that they allowed guys to fail. They like really let people flesh out relationships. I mean, Harden he's not allowing anything to fail. He feels that out quickly and goes, not for me. And I think that happens in a lot of these NBA teams now where they go, this is not for me, instead of really trying to make that thing work.
Okay, last surprising thing before we move on to the Cavs. Are you more surprised the Lakers only have one win, or are you more surprised at how bad the Nets are?
I think I'm more surprised about how bad the Nets are. The Lakers look like a dumpster fire. We had that in our like preview episode where I thought they might be packed up by February. That feels like a good call early. But the Nets just looking completely disjointed and kind of, they looked okay for the first couple games, like they were feeling it out. And then in the last 48 hours, everything's blown up. Like they fired their coach. Kyrie is not just out there, going a little crazy, like flat earthy. He's dabbling in the arena of public cancellation, which is never a fun thing to have to deal with in any realm, but especially the sports one, because that gets a little weird all around, as we know with our Brownies. So I think that's the more surprising one for sure. The Nets just kind of imploding. Very weird. What do you think?
I'm in the same boat. Durant's averaging over 30 points a game, and they're still this bad. In the preview, when I looked at it and was really trying to think about where did the Nets land, in my head, I'm like, okay, Simmons is going to be that point guard. He's going to point forward, point center. You got the shooters around him. You got Durant, who can do anything, and Kyrie's just going to be Kyrie and score all these points. What I really never put time into is how the fuck are they going to play defense? And they put as much thought into it as I did,
Yeah,
because no one plays defense. That's why they're so bad. They are so bad. When Durant was his best is when he could kind of be that free safety on the Warriors and come help block the rim and be the cover guy, kind of like a Rasheed Wallace for the Pistons, and grab those rebounds and get some defensive assists. He can't do that role when you've got Claxton and Simmons on the floor. Harris is a minus defender. Kyrie is a minus defender. Royce O'Neal had an awful season with Utah as a defender before he got traded.
He's a minus defender.
And he's not playing great. I don't know. And the coaching change, you can get Udoka in there. And I don't even think that's a great move to bring him back this soon. But if they do that, he doesn't have Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Williams from the Celtics. He's not going to be able to work his defensive magic like he did with the Celtics. Like, that's not going to happen. You can move that out of your head right now.
There was a Bobby Marks quote about why they fired Steve Nash, or I guess fired is the wrong word. It was then amended quickly to be like, no, we didn't fire anybody. I quit mutually, or whatever it was. But there's a quote that basically he's like, I lost the locker room. I can't get through to them. And that happened yesterday.
Well, that was in your season one.
Yeah, dude, you've never gotten through to them once. I guess that's the only thing with the Udoka hiring. If they want to bring him in, they're like, oh, he can get through to them. He's going to be the guy that they respect, which,
they picked Nash.
Picked Nash. What's going to be when is the magic light come on that's like, no, we respect them now. Very interesting stuff going on there as a whole. I just don't trust it at all.
I sent you a screenshot from Bleacher Report. They do these little polls about blah, 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 blah. And one of the polls was, should Steve Nash be sad that he got fired or be relieved and be happy that he got fired? There were over 1,300 people voted, and it was 100%. He should be happy he got fired. And I've never seen 1,000 people agree on anything in my life. So
pack up
that just tells you how bad that situation is.
Get out of there as fast as you possibly can. It's the best case for you.
Yeah, if I'm the Nets, you've made your bed because you've let Kyrie do whatever he's wanted for the last 3 or 4 years and be as crazy as he wanted to be. So you have to suck it up. But I would just send him home. Yeah. Who knows? He's already talked about the secret societies running the world, and that's the only tweet that got picked up. And then he wants to talk about anti-Semitism and his link, but he didn't promote it. It's only a matter of time before
the billionaire owner tweets directly at him and is like, this is very, very not good.
Yeah, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together till I was listening today. But Kyrie is the vice president of the Players Association. Did you know that?
I did not know that. No, I didn't think about it at least.
So he's the vice president. And so they had to the Players Association had to release a statement today about their vice president.
Oh, God. No, what a mess. That's just like, you don't want to have any of that in your locker room, much less when your team is just completely turmoil, and it has been for over a year. I think one thing before we leave the Nets alone, Ben Simmons looks bad. It looks like failed experiment bad, like, oh no, what did we do bad? Literally driving the lane wide open, turns around and passes up the ball, and Kyrie caught live mic goes, shoot the ball, Ben. And it's like, this looks bad. That's something I would
And
do
now his
at
knee's
a
hurt.
YMCA. Like this is a
And now his
professional
knee's hurt.
basketball player. Yeah, his knee and his pride probably that it does not look good. So that may go down as one of the biggest fleece steal trades ever. If Harden can somehow bump the
What?
Sixers team into the playoffs and does something with it, it's like, wow,
I mean,
look what we did.
no, you're talking about Houston fleecing them,
Oh,
right? Because
all the way
Houston
through.
has all these picks,
Yeah, for real,
and
right?
that team's going to be a dumpster fire.
Uh, what a mess. That is such a mess. So we'll leave them alone. Let's talk about our Cavs because this has been a really fun start to the year. Donovan Mitchell is the man that he was advertised to be. Night in,
Uh,
night out. He's going. Bring it.
Before we
Fire
talk
away.
about the Cavs, I personally apologize to Mr. Levert. You've been amazing this year.
I'm so
You have,
sorry. I'm sorry.
you've won me over.
Me too.
I know we banned you from the pod earlier. You are more than welcome to come back.
Open invite.
And seriously, Levert's been great, and I've been his biggest person to just crush him. But he's handled the ball great. He is passing in situations where last year he was shooting. And I know he's made comments that he was still hurt last year, and that had a lot to do with it, and he didn't understand how the offense worked, which is whatever, I guess. But this year he has been phenomenal while Garland's been out. He shot the ball well. And the one game he really had a bad game. Love went crazy, so he made up for it. But, I mean, he's everything that they said he was going to be. He's been playing good defense on the wing, getting steals. He handles the ball, and he is passing it, and not just because he has to pass it and he's stuck in the air. He's actually making passes and hockey passes. He's been a real reason why we've got so many wins so far.
Yeah, he's honestly, after Garland's gone down, he's probably MVP for why we are winning the games that we are. Donovan is doing the thing he's supposed to do. Levert's doing the surprising thing.
Did you think Donovan was this good?
No, I think he's taken
No,
a
me
step.
neither.
He's definitely taken a step. He's doing I am superstar, like, you know what it's reminded me of almost is like Dame Lillard sort of stuff, less threes, but Dame Lillard stuff where he's like, I'm the guy. Like he knows.
Yeah, this is the only thing that, and I don't know how to describe it, but like they're playing the game, they're going through the offense, it's going, and then I look up and he's got 30 points, and it never felt like he forced his shot, he was dominating the ball. He is just like, he works inside the flow of the offense, and he's just scoring at a high clip, and they are good shots. I don't feel like he's getting double teamed. He's forcing things. He's making good passes. One game he had 12 assists.
Yeah.
And he's playing defense. He is out there guarding people. He is on the wing. He's getting steals, blocks. I couldn't be happier. Then you hear Love's statement the other night that just said, I don't know how else to say it, but he just fits in.
Yeah.
He is one of us. And if you can get your best player to be one of the team and the guys love him, I think they got a good thing going.
Yeah, I mean, he gelled right into that culture. And he's said as much in a couple interviews, too, of like being happy with the team that
He
at.
looks happy.
Yeah, he looks like he likes those guys. And he's fitting the team. I mean, there's outside of just the, it's a good vibe, the play on the floor, like him and Love, the night that they both got going, 8 3-pointers each, the pick and pop that they were running there in the third and fourth quarter was unstoppable to the point where it was not stopped. We ran away and won the game. Like they couldn't do anything about it. And then if that did end up getting covered, they kick it across court to like Dean Wade, who no one was even 10 feet from because they pick and pop the hell out of you until you didn't guard somebody. So Mitchell was the key
and you
to
can't.
that.
And they couldn't go small because you still got Mobley and Allen on the floor. So they couldn't go small because they would just feed them inside. So it was a really good lineup to close with.
Yeah, and I think if we're talking things that can be pointed out on this team, Mobley, not as big of a second-year step right out the gate as one would hope. But, a lot of the additions and the injuries and the play of LeVert and Mitchell, all of that has covered up for his lack of star power, I guess you might say. He's not jumping off the screen in the way that I'd hope. He has moments, but it's just not it's not like, oh my God, he's dominating the whole game like the body should allow. Hopefully he
I
gets there.
agree. Yeah. He's got like the quietest 15 points every night. I will say in the Celtics game, there was a couple times he switched out onto Jaylen Brown or Tatum and really gave them some problems. And I think that's when he's going to unlock the greatness, is when he can do that and still give you 20 on the other end. They feed him the ball. They do
They
give him
do.
a lot of touches to score. Um, it just seems like when he gets close to the paint, there's like this invisible bubble and he cannot get close enough to where he wants to go to make it happen. He hasn't shot it well from the outside, which he's the only one on the team that really isn't shooting it well. So hopefully that just comes back and he can get it. But hey, if he's giving us 15 and Donovan's going crazy, we get Garland back and these role players continue to play great like Ozzy and like Jetty and Dean Wade and all these guys, we're going to be in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. There is this invisible force field that he like hits, and he'll dribble, turn, fade, or he'll do a nice little hook shot. And it's like we didn't want that. I want like a pound the ball into the ground, Kevin Garnett style, one step and dunk it on this guy. You've got a foot on him, like. And I think he gets there. He's just not doing it yet. Somebody that is doing it, Jared Allen, very impressive so far this year, like, defensive player of the year, MVP level stuff going on from him, and he no praise nationally, but he is doing everything that you could ask. And then if we're going Twin Towers, let's add in our fun new backup with the Lopez brother. Awesome off the bench to have Captain Hook. What a fun, like, that is the best version of the center for this team that you could have. He fits the team well, like, because he doesn't have to play almost ever. We just need him to go out there and play for 10 to 12 minutes, maybe score some points or not at all, but get some rebounds and just get in the way. And by God, can that Lopez do it? So our tall guys, interesting across the board this year. They're doing things all over the place.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me and the thing that I was most wrong about was I kept saying they just don't have enough shooting. People are going to pack it in and it's going to be a problem. Even with Garland out, we're leading the NBA in three-point percentage. And I know they're going to cool off at some point, but part of the reason they're shooting so well is they're just wide open.
Mm-hmm.
They move the ball very well. The ball's in the paint a lot, either with Mobley or Allen or Donovan driving or LeVert driving, and they are kicking it out, and these guys are knocking it down. Dean Wade's been great starting at the three for us, and he's played good defense too. And I think the biggest surprise is the three-point shooting, and my biggest breather is that, wow, we're still putting defense at the top of the list because they are playing it really tough-nosed, and that win against Boston was a real surprise for me. I didn't think they were going to come back, and they did, and that's what Donovan's there for, is on those tough games to say, give me the ball because I'm not going to miss these last 6 minutes.
Yeah. And they're doing it. Oh, it's early, but they're doing it, and I love it. And we don't even have Rubio back yet. We don't have a backup point guard.
We don't have Garland.
We've done it all without Garland so far. This is. I want to see Garland and Mitchell play together so bad. I just want to see what that looks like. Because if LeVert's able to do it like this, then I want to see what that looks like with, just shifting everything down one line.
Yeah, and then you've got, those 12 minutes a game that Mitchell's not on the floor. You can now have Garland on the floor those 12 minutes. Oh. So you never go without one of those two on the floor.
Yeah, and then Raul Neto doesn't have to play ever again. He can go.
I'm assuming that LeVert, even though he started the season as the starting three, I think he becomes the sixth man, right? Because he's ran the offense so well. I'm hoping that's what it is. And then he becomes that that second guard that plays with either one of those guys, right, when they're off the floor.
Yeah.
So you've always got LeVert and one of those guys on the floor, or just the two main guys.
What is the closing lineup?
It's exciting. Garland and Mitchell for sure. I think you have to have Mobley out there, but he probably plays the five. I don't know if Allen plays. Because he hasn't been playing a lot of the last minutes. And then you've got LeVert, and then whoever your wing defender is, Love. If it's going to be Dean Wade or if it's going to be, maybe it's Love. I don't know. He doesn't give you the defense.
I think that's, if you're going offensive, closing rotation, I think that is your five. You get your three guards in there. Then you throw in Love and Mobley down to the five. Defensively, you pull Love, you move Mobley up, you bring, Allen back out onto the court, and then maybe Levert gets flipped for Okoro. We didn't talk about him at
He's been
all.
bad.
He's been bad.
He's been the worst one.
He hasn't taken any jumps or steps, and the worst part I think out of all of it is that it's noticeable that Mitchell is trying to get him going, and it's not working. So that feels bad in a lot of ways.
But when he is on the floor, he looks scared to shoot.
Terrified.
When he does shoot, it looks bad. But on defense, though, he played great against DeRozan, and he had some good minutes in the Boston game, too. So defensively, he's really a lockdown, but you can't afford to have somebody that can't shoot on the floor in these big games. It'll help us during the regular season, but if you can't shoot it, you got to get off the floor.
Yeah, he's going to – and really with Levert's kind of emergence here of being more solid than anticipated, and Chetty playing well when he plays, Okoro's going to find himself on the bench a bunch, especially with like Dean Wade playing well. It's like you're going to get outplayed by some of these other guys. Yeah, your defense is slightly better than them, but that's the only thing you're bringing. It's not going to work.
And I love him, too. I want to
too.
cheer for him. I do. But I just don't. I'm not seeing it right now. The other thing is that I was convinced beginning the season that we had to trade Levert, Love, had to make some kind of package with Jetty and some people. I would not trade anybody on the roster. I wouldn't even trade Okoro right now. I think that they fit so well together, and the best thing for them is just to stick together, barring an injury. I wouldn't trade anybody and just let them work through it because they're all playing well. They know their role. There's nobody that's too big for the team, and I think it just fits so well. And I don't – with the shooting, what do you need to add?
Yeah. It's working. Yeah, and there's nobody that you're going to add and be like, I mean, what, could you add a Buddy Hield or sure, but what are you going to give up to get it? There's nobody. I wouldn't mess with the chemistry. I think that's a good call, right? Just leaving it alone.
I did have to go on the trade machine because I sent you some stuff just because I was playing around. Do you know how much money Tobias Harris makes?
Oh, he's in the 40s? It's the 40s, right?
He's the highest paid player on the 76ers. A team with Embiid and Harden, and he's the highest paid player.
This year. Yeah.
That's gross.
Oh, it's nasty. It was nasty when he signed it. It's nastier every year.
God. Him or Jimmy Butler. Sixers fans are just can't sleep over that.
Oh, they've hated him longer than he's been there probably. It's not good.
Nobody even knows who he is.
Nobody knows.
I mean, he should get traded. That's who they should do. If they want to make that team better, they should package him.
For what? You can't get it. Nobody wants to take that on, and if you do send him off, you have to pack it. You're going to have to put picks with it, and you just did a whole thing where you traded off players and pieces. And
yeah, you're right.
What a mess they're in up there. All right, well, we have a fantasy football trade deadline primer. You want to save that, or you want to do it?
No, let's do it, man.
All right, let's do it. I know a handful of people that listen to this are fantasy football fans like ourselves. So we put together
they like the
fantasy trade deadline primer. That definitely isn't for me to gain any intel on what Ryan wants to do in our fantasy football leagues. So how long before tight end slot goes to a tight end wide receiver slot, or is just eliminated like most kickers? Man,
that was my question. I put that in.
It's a good question to throw at the top of the primer because it is the time of year where a lot of people are looking at what rules do we change, what do we do heading into next year. You brought this up to me earlier this year. I like it, but I will be the guy left on the corner holding the little lantern saying, hey, why don't we still have just the tight end slot? Because I like the competitiveness of being able to have a good tight end versus a bad one and not, forcing the other guy to have to play a bad tight end. I think that, that's a big piece of how fantasy football works currently. So a lot of people are going to start to move that direction, but I personally would like to see the tight end just stay the tight end.
Yeah, I don't know. I was one of the first people that got on the let's eliminate kicker slot. So
I'm with you.
I want to be on this parade too, but I think you're right. I think that doing some research on that tight end position is interesting because no one ever wants to pay to take them, but the dude that took Travis Kelce this year, I guarantee you they have one of the best records in your league right now, no matter what team he's on, because he's such a positional advantage over everyone else because every other tight end in the league is just garbage.
Right, and it's something where trades for tight ends matter, waiver wire tight ends matter, and if you go to a wide receiver tight end slot, all of that goes away except for like 3 guys, and then that's just wide receivers. So I'd rather keep the tight ends as a viable option, something that's fun, but I think we're going to see a lot of leagues that dump it. So for the trade deadline, I have some hypotheticals for you. Best sell high player right now. Who is your best sell high heading into the deadline? Who would you dump right now if you could? Get a good haul, but who are you trying to sell?
Yeah, I put Jalen Hurts on there. I don't think a lot of quarterbacks get traded, but I think he's one of those guys you could probably trade high on. The Eagles aren't going to play this great the rest of the season. They're going to come down to earth at some point. He has only had a few turnovers. He's going to regress to the mean there too, so he's going to have a little bit more of those games. And it looks like they're probably going to wrap up a playoff spot a little early, so you may have him sitting when you're in some playoff contention weeks. So I think you could actually get a pretty good little haul for him, somebody that is just maybe needs a quarterback, is tired of playing the streaming game, or somebody that has an injury. I think you could probably get a good haul for them.
That's a good call. Quarterbacks, like you said, they aren't traded often, but the running ones and the ones that put up stats like Hurts has this year can get a little haul back. And if you could get a guy that plugs and plays, that might be worth it. I had Jonathan Taylor. I think that running backs in this league turn over faster than anyone really wants to believe that they actually do. And if you look back even a year, 2 years, and you just see who was drafted first, second, third overall, 80% of those guys from 1 through 5 or 1 through 10 don't even make it back to the top 10 or top 20 ever again. They just go away. And it happens every year. So Jonathan Taylor, great talent. Team is going to the dumpster fire that it's trying to become. I would jump off that ship while you can.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
There's another one on this list. I don't know if you put it on here or I did, but I agree with it nonetheless. King Henry. I don't know if you can sell him based off of what he did just this past weekend, where it's like, oh no, could he do that every week? But you're going to get as big a haul for him as you would for any player in the league. If there's someone else that you believe in or that you want for the long haul of the season and you have Derrick Henry, I would think about making that move. I like that it's on the list. It's similar with JT. It's not a guy you just go give away. But if there's anyone else that you want and believe in, I would trade these guys to go get that person.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on that list the last 2 years for me where he's like a ticking time bomb. There's no way I'm drafting him because he's going to blow up at some point. And if you can trade him now because you know you're not keeping him next year, I think it's definitely worth it. And like you said, he's coming off a big week. The quarterback room's a mess there, so they're going to continue to feed him the ball. He can't just keep Kevin 30-yard games or 30-carry games without getting an injury. So I would sell him now while you could, especially off this huge week. I think you could get a steal for him.
Yeah, you're going to get as big a haul after this week as you would any week, anytime. Try and move him if you can. I think that's my go. Best buy low players. I had Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that right now it's not looking great. Detroit's selling off pieces, and he had a really amazing streak of games there. He got a little banged up, and he's starting to come back from that. So I think as a keeper pick moving forward, as a guy that could contribute down the stretch, Amon-Ra St. Brown for me is that person.
I just don't think you could buy him low. I think the Amon St. Brown owner is probably still thinks how the beginning of the season is how it's going to be. Now you don't have Hawkinson, so I think he's going to get more targets than he was before. So if you can get him, great. I just think you'll probably have to pay for him.
Yeah. If you'll hopefully have to pay a lower price now than you would have at any point, since his ascension when he was drafted. Right? It's been as high as possible since then. This is as low of price as you're going to get, or that you could have gotten. And who do you have?
My pick was Mixon, and probably doesn't even sound great now after this Browns game, but he's had the most touches inside the 10 for a running back. He just hasn't hit pay dirt a lot. It is a good offense in theory, especially with Chase out. The first, 9 plays of the game, I think he touched it 6 or 7 times, either rushing or out of the backfield. So he would be my guy. Whoever drafted him is feeling pretty frustrated because he hasn't been in the end zone much. And he's still a young guy. Even if you're not using him for this year, you could probably keep him into next year and see what happens if his price isn't too expensive. I think he's one of those guys you might be able to get buy low on.
Yeah, that's a good call. And it was disappointing again. Hopefully that doesn't continue to be the case. We've seen him do it before. The team feels okay if they can get their line to block at all for Mixon. Just let him fall into the end zone a couple times. It'd be a win for you.
And there aren't many players where you can get a 3 TD game, and I would not be surprised to see Mixon put up a 3 TD game.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's one of those dudes.
He has that opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, his ceiling is extremely high. He hasn't performed at all this year, so it's a guy worth taking a swing at. Best is yet to come players. I had a couple that were off the board a little bit. Wan'Dale Robinson. This week, not a fun second week swing on my guy, but hey, we've got the rest of the season to see if it can work. They got rid of Kadarius
It's going to be
Toney.
now or never.
Yeah, it's happening this year. It's just never happening ever. So we'll see if Wan'Dale can put it together. My other pick there was Justin Fields, and I feel better about it every week. I was laughed at on the preseason because I said Chicago's better than it seems, and guess what? They are better than they seem. They're not good, but they're better than they seem. And
That's true.
The running game up there is doing well, and they're finally letting our guy get a little bit of, Justin Fields get a little bit of throwing time under his belt. Who knew the guy can throw a deep ball, and if you just let him throw more than one a game, you might connect. It's wild.
Now he's got somebody that can go deep.
Yeah, he's going jump ball chase. Let's see how it works.
I feel like I cheated because I kind of took some established guys and you took some other people.
I like it, though.
So best yet to come, I think Dalvin has the best yet to come still in that. Yeah. I think as the season wears on, they're going to continue to give him the ball. He had a great week this week, and he's had good weeks. It just hasn't been eye-popping, but he continues to perform. And then just as before the trade, just so y'all know, I had CMC on here. So I think the best is yet to come for him. And now, especially in that offense, I think that's an easy one. You did list a category as the poopy pants pick. So this was somebody you were nervous about and wasn't exactly sure how it would turn out. I put Tua, but not so much for his performance. I think he's important because how he connects to Hill, Waddle, and Mostert. So he has a lot of fantasy impact moving forward, not only for himself, but for the team. We saw that offense was not that great when he was out. It did not move the same way that it moves when he's in there. So he's kind of my, maybe not best yet to come, but he's got some left in him.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick. I like both of the quarterbacks we picked there. Like, the team, it has to move through that guy or it's just not going to move, and I think that's part of the reason why we both could see them doing well the second half of the year there too. Also, credit to you for the CMC being on this list prior to the trade and prior to last week, really, when he put up his touchdown in all 3 categories or whatever it was, where only a couple players have ever done that. I think with as high as his ceiling has been, it raised going to the Niners, which is like hard to even quantify for a guy that's put up the numbers that he has over his career. But the ability that he has to put up 20-plus point fantasy games every single week for the rest of the year, if he stays healthy, is like game-breaking stuff. So, best is yet to come. CMC right there. That's a wild one. That could be a lot. We also have a dynasty stash alert. I wanted to put this out there. I went to my waiver wire to stash some guys, and I honestly could not find anybody because I play with a bunch of assholes that also think about this stuff. So, but Jameson Williams, who's been stashed since the draft, which, good power to whoever had the balls to keep him that long.
Just so you know, I drafted him, held him, and then traded him for a future 8th round pick. So I feel great about it.
Which is just wild. But Jameson Williams is mine. If he's on your waiver wire, I would go look for him, pick him up. The first round wide receivers in the draft this year have been balling out. So if he can step into a role and play well, he's supposed to. So if you get a price on him that's just a waiver pickup, that could be something crazy moving forward.
Well, the good thing, too, you're probably going to see him at some point this year. So you'll be able to see him on the field. He may not be 100%, but you're probably going to get some game time before the next year's draft. So that'd be good info. I had a couple obvious ones. Obviously, check your IR, but if Breece Hall or Javonte Williams are out there, you want to put them on your team, obviously. Those are easy ones. You may be even able to trade for those players, give some draft compensation for a couple future years. The people that you're trading with may need somebody off your roster right now to make it to the playoffs. And if you're really looking to the future, it may be worth sending them a player now plus some draft picks to land that person. Those two could be really good. I also had Calvin Ridley on here again before the trade happened. I think that dude's a stud, and he probably cost you nothing in this year's draft if he was even drafted. So check your league rules to see what it'll cost you if you keep him, if he's eligible to be kept. But you could pick him up right now, probably for no waiver dollars, and hide him on your bench. I also had Deshaun Watson with the same thought. I've got Walker 3, probably not a stash. But my surprise person to keep on your roster for Dynasty pick is Kareem Hunt. The dude's only 27 years old. He's going to be on another team next year. The Browns are not going to re-sign him or franchise tag him. So he is going to be on a team and be the lead back. He is not going to sign a backup role. And he can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He blocks well. He's going to be a 3-down back with something to prove, and he does not have the mileage that other 27, 28-year-old backs have. And I think he could be somebody that's going to be exciting. You probably saw him drafted between the 6th and 10th rounds in your draft at home, so probably has some good keeper value that way too. So look out for Kareem Hunt. Might be somebody you could trade for now and keep on your bench for next season.
Yeah. All good calls. Definitely a bunch of check and C's and guys to throw in the IR slot or at the bottom of your bench and just see if you can get a steal towards next year. If you're in a dynasty format at all, keeper formats, it's worth taking a look at. This is the most fun part of fantasy football. I hope everybody's having fun because I know in the couple leagues I'm in, we're tearing it up with trades. So even in my bad league, I'm just like selling. I kind of like, honestly, it's almost more fun to be the bad team. If I could win money doing this, it's more fun doing this. Just trading off guys for I'll take an 8th rounder for that. What about a 6th, a 3rd? Let's trade 10th for a 7th. And it's just super fun. And at least I have something to do while I keep racking up losses week after week. I have my crown on from last year. I'll wear it proudly. Any final thoughts here before we wrap this thing up? Are you... anything before we say goodbye?
Have you watched any of the World Series? I know the Guardians have been out of it. Have you put your eyes on it?
So this was a little bullet point I had in here. Truthfully, have you watched? I have watched not one full game, maybe not one full inning. I have turned it on. I've had it turned on. And then I go, oh, wow. Yeah, and then I change it and watch something else usually.
I'm in the same boat. My oldest son, Lake, is into it. He loves Bryce Harper, so he's been watching the Phillies part of it and texting me at 1 a.m. like, oh, my God, the Phillies just hit a home run to win it. But even with the extra innings game, I'm just not interested. I'm just not. If the Guardians were in it, I'd probably be so hyped up and all in. But to watch two teams that I only know the stories of 2 or 3 players, it's just not interesting. And Major League Baseball doesn't do a good enough job storytelling to get me invested in these people.
Yeah, I think that's the truth of it. And I put it as is there any way to fix this? Let's do the thing that every single podcast has ever done on how do we fix baseball? But really, it's a very odd one because I don't know what you can even start to do to try to fix it. I just don't care about any team outside of the one that I root for. And for whatever reason, that's the only of the 3 major sports that has that problem for me. I could watch any NBA finals. I wouldn't care. I could watch any Super Bowl and I wouldn't care. I'd have somebody to root for. I'd have something to go. I just could give a shit about the Phillies and the Astros in the World Series. And,
It's so funny because, I started my fantasy career playing fantasy baseball. That was my thing, man. I loved it, loved it, loved it. And now I can't even get into it. And that's part of the reason that football is so popular is everyone plays fantasy or gambles on it in some way or another, because players on all the teams. So you'll watch any game. But in baseball, it's not like that. So for me, just simple things. They should start the World Series games at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon and not at 8 or 8:30. No one wants to get invested and then be up till midnight on a work night or a school night watching it. If they started the game earlier, they're still going to get a ton of eyeballs, and I think even more eyeballs probably. And they got to, we talked about it, they got to speed the game up, and they got to figure out a way to keep the ball in play one way or the other.
I don't know. I think it's just dying, and we may be in a different spot with it. They need something different, and baseball's leadership doesn't seem to want to do that. So we're not fixing baseball today, but the World Series is happening. I'm rooting for the Phillies. I like Bryce Harper.
Me too. Fuck the Astros.
Yeah, fuck the Astros over and over and over. So best of luck to the Phillies, and I think that right now they are winning in Game 3, so they can take the lead of the World Series tonight. Good for them. Cool, man. Thanks for hopping on. We covered a lot of stuff. There's been a lot going on. It's been a hell of a day in sports, so I'm glad that we were able to pop on. We'll be back again soon with more Did You See That content for all the people that love to see it with us. So have a good week, everybody. We'll talk to you.
Bye, everybody. See you.